Hey everyone, in today's video I'll be going over a Centurion themed build, and let me tell you, this setup is just as fun as it is effective. Don't forget to subscribe for more weekly content. I also have a Discord setup for anyone looking for more people to play with. The link to that and other Elden Ring related videos will be in the description down below. Alright guys, let's dive into the build, starting off with the weapons. In our main hand, we're going to be using the Regalia straight sword. It's the closest looking sword to the one Centurions would use. On top of this, it has a really cool special attack as well. Your character throws the sword forward in a spiraling motion, doing non-stop damage, before pulling it back and doing one last sweep attack. Also, your target becomes locked into the attack so they can't really move. Because the attack does continuous damage and not just one big hit, there's a few talismans I like to use to make this move a lot more punishing. One of them being MILLICENT'S PROSTHESIS, giving us a 2-for-1 special, increasing our dex by 5 levels, which also increases the sword's damage by a bit because it mainly scales with dex and arcane. The other thing the talisman does is increase our damage with successive attacks. Remember what I said about the special attack doing continuous damage and not just one big hit? These count as successive attacks, so we can max out the damage increase from this talisman in an instance. But it doesn't end there either, because I'm also using the winged sword, which does the exact same thing without the extra 5 levels of dex, and the shard of Alexander, which gives me a flat damage increase for my special attacks. Alright, that's enough of the talismans for now. With our offhand, we're going to have two things we can use. One of them being the LORDSWORN'S GREATSHIELD, which really matches the Centurion look, as well as being useful. And another sword, so we have the option to either play aggressive or more defensive. You'll also need to equip the no skill Ash of War, so instead of doing a bash attack, your character will automatically do the special attack of the weapon in our main hand. I'm also going to throw in a little hint somewhere in the video on what the next build I'm working on is going to be about. Let me know in the comment section down below when you find it and what you think it's going to be. With the shield, you can honestly use one that's better. Not saying this is bad, but there are more effective ones. With using it, it's a lot more effective in PvE for counterattacking enemies and absorbing damage to protect your team during boss fights. A really nice talisman to use with this is the curved sword, further increasing the damage of counterattacking, making it more effective and punishing. Or you can use the Great Shield talisman that'll increase your guard boost, so you can take more hits before someone breaks your guard. Completely up to you with your playstyle. I mentioned earlier that we had two things we use in our offhand, and the second one being the broadsword. When you're dual wielding swords, you're able to pump out a ridiculous amount of damage, so this is more recommended for when you really want to dive in on the offense. To get this wild amount of damage, you'll want to use the Ash of War's SEPPUKU on it with the bleed variation. Honestly, bleed weapons right now are ridiculously strong and overpowered. It just makes a lot of sense to go with it since we have quite a few levels in arcane because our main weapon also scales with that. So when you're going in on the offensive with dual swords, first activate the Ash of War's SEPPUKU and then pull out your main weapon. When you do this, you'll have the bleed effect on your weapon, causing a blood loss in 1 to 3 attacks while being able to use the Regalia straight sword's special attack, getting the best out of both weapons. With our shield being the complete opposite, protecting yourself from incoming damage, counterattacking, being a tank for your team, and precisely choosing when to attack, it's pretty similar to a Spartan build I made, but less effective in PvP. The best way to use this setup is really straightforward. Use the shield and sword to push through the world of Elden Ring, or until you reach a boss fight. Then you have the decision to either dual wield your weapons for more damage but less protection, or continue on with your shield and sword for more protection and less damage. Then, with PvP fights, you'll definitely want to dual wield swords to really overwhelm your opponent. Something I like to use before PvP fights or boss fights is the spell Flame Grant Me Strength. I mention it in a lot of videos, it's just so good to use, increasing our damage with the minimum requirement being 15 faith. Now for a better look at the armor. I'm using the Twins helmet that really matches the Roman soldier / Centurion look, and the rest of the armor are all pieces from the Elden Lord set that really help complete the look. The armor's not too heavy, so you won't have to put a ridiculous amount of points into endurance or use a talisman spot to increase your equip load. Lastly, before the stats required for this build is the Flask of Wondrous Physic. The first tier you'll want to use is the Dexterity Crystal Knot, increasing our dex by 10 levels, also increasing our damage. The second tier, you have two options. You can either use the MAGIC-SHROUDING tier that increases our magic damage by 20%, that being the Regalia sword, or the Strength Crystal Knot tier that will increase our strength by 10 levels, increasing our damage with the broadsword. Again, there is no right or wrong answer here, it all just depends on how you want to use this build, so it's very adjustable. With the stats, you'll need a minimum of 16 strength, 18 dex, 15 arcane, and 15 faith. I would recommend splitting your points between dex and arcane to increase your damage and also increase the bleed buildup on the broadsword. Or you can dump a crazy amount of points into arcane and make this more a bleed heavy build, but that's completely up to you. I'm also going to put links in the description down below giving you more information on the gear I'm using and where you can find it for yourself. That's everything for today's video. If you have any builds you'd like me to try out and possibly make a video on, let me know in the comment section down below. I'd also like to give a big thanks to the members of my channel for supporting me on my videos and the future ones to come. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.